If you ever wondered why some World War II soldiers and civilians survived conditions that would break most people today, it wasn't magic. It was technique. Pure, time-forged, experience-hardened technique. And the deeper you dig into these forgotten shelter hacks, the more you realize something surprising. Modern gear might be lighter, prettier, and titanium-coated, but it still can't match the raw ingenuity of people who had to survive with whatever they could carry, scavenge, or build under fire. Today, on Legacy of Survival, we're walking straight into the trenches, forests, ruins, and frozen wastelands of World War II to uncover shelter tricks that outsmart our gadgets, outlast our gear, and humble even the most confident prepper. Let's dive in, because the value starts right now. World War II pushed human limits. Soldiers slept in deserts, jungles, mountaintops, bombed out cities, swamps and tundra. Supplies got cut. Weather attacked. Comfort wasn't just rare, it was tactical. And the people who mastered shelter became the ones who lived long enough to fight another day. Their hacks were so effective because they weren't theories. They were field-proven, under stress, hunger, exhaustion, and danger. Every technique had to work, or someone died. And that's exactly why some of these methods still quietly outperform half the ultralight inventions we brag about today. One of the most underrated techniques was the trench-dug heat pocket. Soldiers figured out pretty quickly that a standard foxhole alone wouldn't keep them alive in cold rain or freezing winds, so they modified it. They dug a second, smaller recess inside the main trench. This pocket trapped warm air from body heat while separating the sleeping area from ground-level drafts. It actually created a microclimate. No electricity, no fancy fabrics. Just physics and grit. The heat pocket could lift ground temperature by several crucial degrees, enough to prevent hypothermia in temperatures where, honestly, modern preppers would rely heavily on insulated mats and premium sleeping bags. It was an innovation born from desperation, yet it still works shockingly well. Another forgotten tactic was the evergreen bough insulation technique. In forested areas, soldiers, especially in Northern Europe and the Pacific, built shelters layered with branches that acted the way our reflective emergency blankets are supposed to. Except the natural materials didn't crinkle, tear, or blow away. By stacking fresh branches with the underside facing inward, they created an insulating cushion that breathed but still retained heat. When done right, it kept the interior warm and reduced condensation, solving a problem modern tents still struggle with. And here's the twist. The method was often paired with soil banking. Soldiers piled dirt around the outside walls, turning flimsy lean-to shelters into windproof, rain-resistant structures. Simple, silent, incredibly effective. Then there was the debris layer roof, an absolute masterpiece of battlefield engineering. When troops had nothing but ruins around them, they used shattered bricks, broken door frames, concrete chunks, and scrap metal to reinforce makeshift shelters. The trick wasn't just throwing rubble on top. They created angled layers that shed rain and absorbed shrapnel impact. A properly built debris layer roof gave more protection than some modern preppers get from store-bought emergency shelters, and it blended perfectly into the environment. In urban warfare, invisibility was survival. Soldiers learned to build strong, hidden shelters right inside demolished buildings, using the chaos of destruction as camouflage instead of struggling against it. In tropical regions, another hack emerged that preppers rarely talk about: raised ground sleeping platforms. Jungle soil is warm, wet, crawling with insects, and loaded with unseen hazards. Soldiers figured out that raising a platform even a foot off the ground changed the entire survival equation. They used branches, vines, bamboo, and even ammo crates to build elevated beds that reduced mosquito exposure, prevented ground moisture loss from the body, and protected against sudden flooding. Combined with leaf thatch roofs, angled for maximum drip runoff, these shelters could stay dry even in downpours that would overwhelm modern lightweight tents. It wasn't glamorous, but it was genius. Cold weather shelters during World War II were some of the most advanced improvised constructions ever recorded. In the brutal Russian winter, both Axis and Allied troops built what were essentially micro-bunkers using snow. Not igloos. Compressed snow dens reinforced with layers of ice, fabric, and sometimes scrap metal. Snow, when compacted, becomes an incredible insulator, and these shelters could trap enough heat to raise interior temperatures to survivable levels, even when the outside world froze at 40 degrees below zero. Soldiers who mastered this technique often survived conditions that wiped out those who didn't. Modern preppers respect winter shelters, sure, but few know how to make one out of nothing but a shovel, a rifle butt, and their own breath. One particularly powerful hack was the underground heat chimney, used in both Europe and the Pacific. Soldiers dug two small tunnel openings, one for fresh air, the other for smoke, and placed a tiny heat source such as charcoal or slow-burning wood inside the main chamber. The oxygen flow kept the fire alive without letting smoke choke the shelter. The design prevented visible smoke plumes, which was the difference between staying warm and being discovered by the enemy. Even today, concealed heating remains a lost art. Modern preppers rely heavily on stoves, tech and gear, but this old-world airflow engineering solved the same problem using nothing but dirt and instinct. But maybe the most overlooked shelter trick of all was moisture control. World War II troops quickly learned that staying dry wasn't just about a roof. It was about airflow and ground treatment. In wet climates, they dug drainage trenches around the perimeter of their shelters. They sloped floors so water would run off. They scattered hot ashes on mud to harden the surface. They used clothing wax, grease, even soot to seal tiny gaps in makeshift walls. These weren't luxuries. They were life-saving adaptations. Modern shelters can be waterproof, but moisture still builds inside. The old methods created passive ventilation systems long before people talked about, breathable technology. The true brilliance of these forgotten hacks lies in how adaptable they were. No gear, no problem, no tools. They made tools. No time. They built fast. No materials. They scavenged. This is what modern prepping often misses. Not every crisis lets you choose your equipment. World War II survivors understood their environment deeply enough to bend it into shelter. That's what made them so hard to break. And this is why exploring World War II shelter tactics is more than nostalgia. It's survival education. These techniques work. They're proven. They're raw and reliable. And every prepper, homesteader, hiker or history lover should know them. Because the more technology you carry, the more vulnerable you become when it fails. But knowledge? Knowledge weighs nothing. Knowledge stays with you when the gear bag is empty and the world goes silent. If you want more content like this, more rare survival wisdom, more forgotten strategies, more deep dives into the past that sharpen your future, make sure you subscribe to Legacy of Survival. Hit that like button, share this video with someone who needs to hear it, and let's keep these powerful lessons alive.